Welcome back, children. So, today we will see another newspaper from our pre independence era. Previous class we studied about mass media related to, in connection with history, how history is related to mass media, and in which we saw about Darpan newspaper, which was started in 1832 in Mumbai by Bal Shastri Zambekar, and we saw uh, various titles which was there in Darpan newspaper during that time, what was the main events which took place during that time. We also studied about important points which Bal Shastri Zambekar actually wanted to make aware the Indians about various things. So now in that connection we'll see about another newspaper from pre-independence era, that is Prabhakar. This newspaper was started by Bhau Mahajan. The history of French Revolution and Shatapatre, the letters by Lokahitavadi Gopal Hari Deshmukh aimed at creating social awareness were published in this newspaper. Children, already I told you this newspaper played a very important role in connecting the people, making awareness among the people about our country, about the various policies, about the various drawbacks which were Indians were facing, and how Indians can uh, improve in that particular area. And actually they wanted to make aware the mass, they wanted to reach to the mass, so that the people will have connectivity, and this will indirectly or directly help in the freedom struggle. So these newspapers, they played a very important role before pre-independence era to have a connectivity among the people. Understood? So next newspaper we'll see Dhyanoday. See, children, Gyanodaya, the name itself, it deals with to make aware about the people. Printed map of Asia in 1842 and map of Europe on 1851. See this, children, this newspaper, it claimed that this newspaper was the first newspaper in which the map of printed map of Asia was published in 1842. Understood? And the news of installation of telegraph transmitting a news electronically, the news of starting railways in India, also printed news of Indian War of Independence 1857. So these were the points which was there, which was the important news headlines in this newspaper Gyanodaya. Understood? So during that time, these railways were started. Already we know that Britishers, they introduced railways in our country. So the news of starting railways in India, the news of installation of telegraph facilities, which was published in this newspaper, and the news of starting of railways in India was printed in Dhyanodaya. Understood? Under the title Chakya Mahosabha, meaning Mahosabha with wheels. Understood? It had also printed the news of Indian War of Independence 1857. You know, the first war of independence 1857. So these type of news during that time, it was very important. Maximum Indians, they were not aware of all these things because of the lack of communication. Now we know every single movement, every single news which is spread like a wildfire today's time, due to the due to help of internet, due to the help of progressed communication in the field of communication. But during that time it was very impossible, it was just impossible. Maximum people, they were not aware of anything which was happening in our country. So these newspapers, they played a very important role in making spreading the news, important news which happened in our country during that time. Now next we will see Indu Prakash. Indu Prakash was an Anglo-Marathi periodical published from Bombay. That means both in English and Marathi, this Indu Prakash was periodical. That means it was published in a certain period of time, like 7 days, in 8 days or 10 days weekly, from Bombay in the late 1800s and early 1900. Established by Vishnu Parshuram Pandit in 1862. It was published as a weekly bilingual periodical and often contained articles supporting the Indian freedom movement and criticism of British colonial rule. So, articles were published in supporting Indian freedom movement so that people will have the feeling of nationalism will arise in the people. Understood? And actually, they wanted to criticize. In Marathi language, they published various articles which they wanted to criticize the colonial rule. But in English, they used to publish uh, uh, certain news not related to Britishers. Understood? So it was later merged in Lokmanya, Ranade, Telang, Chandavarkar, Indu Prakash, KG Pavarte were involved in success of this newspaper. Indu Prakash, KG Deshpande, who was in charge of Indu Prakash, requested Sri Aurobindo to write about current political situation. Aurobindo Ghosh began writing a series of fiery articles under the title New Lamps for Old, where in which he strongly criticized the Congress for its moderate policy. Understood? So this newspaper, they played important role, and in which they used to criticize colonial rules, and they used to publish various articles regarding Indian freedom struggle. So Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, he was given this um, responsibility to write certain articles, and in that newspaper he wrote one very important article, New Lamps for Old. There he criticized the Congress for its moderate policy. So extremists and moderates, the two, already we have studied in our previous class that extremists and moderates, the Congress, it was divided, the some freedom fighters and leaders, they divided among themselves. There was a rift in the Congress party, so moderate policy and extremist policy. So Aurobindo Ghosh, he criticized in that newspaper. So this Indu Prakash was also among one of the important newspaper during that time. Now we will see Deen Bandhu. Deen Bandhu, sometimes translated as Deenabandhu and spelled Deen Bandhu, was a weekly Marathi language newspaper first published in Pune, British India in January 1877. It was the first newspaper in India to cater explicitly for the labouring people. Deen Bandhu was founded by Jyotirao Phule and K.P. Bhalekar, and it served as an outlet for Phule's Satya Sodhak Samaj. It was edited by Narayan Megha Lokhande, Marathi, who had already been writing from it from 1880, and it was selling 1650 copies per week in 1884, thus making it the second highest circulation Marathi or Anglo-Marathi newspaper in Bombay Presidency after Kesari. While Lokhande published the Dinbandhu from Bombay, Vitthal Maruthrao Naule, an admirer of Phule, brought the rights to publish an edition in Pune. He imported a printing press from Ohio that continued to produce the newspaper until it ceased publication in the 1970. That press still exists in Pune. In 2013, it was still owned by the Naule family. However, it was in state of considerable disrepair and delay. The state government was considering whether it would be preserved. Decay. So Dinbandhu still it was existing. Understood? So it was started during that time, 1877 January. Mahatma Jyotirao Phule was associated with, he founded this newspaper, and it was going on. Understood? So these important newspaper was there, and these played a very important role in communicating. It act as a bridge between people and government. Understood? So that people they will understand why this newspaper they were publishing in the regional language, so that the common people they will understand what was going on in our country and how their contribution will be there in the freedom struggle, because that time maximum the atmosphere was filled with freedom movement. Understood? And so how the people will communicate with each other? Through these newspapers only. So here you can see Kesari newspaper